On your Monday episode of Locked On Raptors, the Raptors split a weekend pair of games against the Sixers and Wolves, and the kids might not just be all right, they might be freaking awesome.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Monday, October the 28th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. We cover the Toronto Raptors now 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on the bad website that sucks at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors, and you can join us on the Locked On Raptors Discord server, baby. Link in the description of the podcast. It's free to join. We'd love to see you become part of our listener community. Lots of new faces in there through the first week of the season. Happy to see some new folks, fresh blood, and of course, all the usual sickos hanging out in there. The degenerates who spend all the live long day not doing work and talking about the Raptors. You can be one of those people too. You can also be one of the people who subscribes to the Locked On Raptors newsletter every single day for free in your inbox. Original writing by me 4 days a week. You get Katie Heindel original pieces on the NBA at large, fantasy news from Josh Lloyd, links to all the best coverage around the league. It's a wonderful value proposition because it costs $0. Link also in the description. Please subscribe, helps me out, and you get to read my words every day, which is a thing I haven't been able to say in many, many years, but it's back, baby. The blog fingers are warmed up. They're rolling 1 week in. Please go subscribe. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season big with a return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we'll get started here, welcoming in the birthday boy. It's Vivek Jacob, Big V from Raptors in 7 and Sportsnet, among other things. Big V, fun weekend. Got to see a couple of very bizarre Raptors games, in particular that Friday one. How are you doing, my friend, on this, the day of your birth?
It's a lot of craziness. As a Manchester United fan, Eric Ten Hag got sacked. So,
oh wow, yeah,
happy birthday to me. But yeah, basketball-wise, it's been fun getting into all the action, NBA-wide, and then the Raptors. You know, seeing the young guys, as you mentioned, provide a thrill a minute. It's been super fun, and different guys having different moments, and we're going to get into all of that. And it's wins and lessons season, and we are embracing the lessons.
100% wins, lessons, and chaos basketball. That is the MO, it seems, for this year's Toronto Raptors. And let's start there. Let's get into our biggest takeaways. We'll get into yours coming up in segment 2. My big takeaway off the top here, Big V, is the 2024 draft class already just like a home run vintage Raptors draft class? My God, they seem to have done pretty well here. That game against the Sixers on Friday kind of being the coming out party for a few members of that group. Jonathan Mogbo in particular comes in and is just awesome off the bench, doing ridiculous feats of athleticism while also not really seemingly know what he's doing yet. But for him, 12 points, 9 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, a plus 21. Sure, not bad in your second career NBA game. You got Jamal Shead doing his thing off the bench. Very nasty defense, setting guys up. Some turnover stuff, which we'll get into a little bit later on. It's rookie point guard stuff. It's standard issue for a point guard in his first year. But beyond that, a lot to like from Jamal Shead. The paint touches where he's just, a walking paint touch, really. Pretty impressive stuff for a guy with not really any pull-up three-point shooting juice to speak of at all. And then Jamison Battle was fantastic in that game as well. He hit that shot, that sort of late clock possession saver over Kyle Lowry. Raptors players off the bench don't hit shots like that, man. It's been a while since we saw something like that. Jamison Battle, big one from him in that one, 12 points for him. Overall, man, it's been a lot of fun to watch these guys kind of figure things out. They all do their own little things. They all kind of have their own little niches. And I can't describe how big this will be for the Raptors team building process if these early returns carry on into the future, as we're in a second apron league now. We're in a really restrictive cap environment. These young dudes who are effective and useful on cheap contracts, as ghoulish as it is from a labor standpoint, really matters if you want to win basketball games. And for a team that's not had depth to speak of in years, they seem to be on their way to having it kind of in spades, especially as we haven't even seen the top pick from this 2024 class in Jakob Poeltl, who seems like he's going to get ramped up with the Raptors 905 starting this week, which is very exciting. Big V, I cannot contain my excitement about this group of rookies. Even if none of them are stars, it seems like they've got some actual viable rotation level NBA players here, which is a beautiful thing for a franchise that's had a bit of a fallow period when it comes to finding guys on the fringes, right?
Absolutely. And I think when you look at the Raptors and that We the North era where they were able to really find all that success, it was having that sort of connectivity between the 905 and the Raptors. It was about having development as a core identity. And so when you look at the last few years and the way that they've struggled, you do feel like they've lost that a little bit. And so to come out of this draft and have Jonathan Mogbo look the way he did against Philadelphia, to have Jamal Shead have his moments. Obviously, we haven't seen Jakob Poeltl, but and even Gradey Dick was just drafted last year.
100%.
You throw him into the mix, and you're feeling pretty good about the way things are trending upwards again. And as far as like just finding pieces as well that can like continue to grow, and maybe they can turn themselves into another piece that comes in that sort of upgrade, right? Like you think of Ochai Agbaji, what his sort of narrative was coming in. How do you level him up from that, right? And so I think you've got some pieces to work with, and so far it's been pretty bright watching them. And I think that's the biggest takeaway that you can have from those young guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in particular, I mean, I love Jamal Shead. Everything he's doing is super exciting. He's got a lot of energy. I think there's a real case to be made that he should just be the backup point guard once Quickly's back. Davion Mitchell has not looked good as an offensive player so far. Really rough in that game against the Timberwolves. He hit a couple threes, which was great against the Sixers. But if he's not hitting those threes, he's not given a ton of value as an offensive player right now. Shead just seems to do a lot more. Again, the paint touches, the defense, like he kind of does it all, minus shoot threes, although he's hit a couple, and that's been very encouraging to see as well. But for me, the guy who has me dreaming most is Mogbo, right? That game against the Sixers Friday, again, he doesn't even seem to really have a grasp of like what he's capable of yet. He's still kind of figuring out the pace of the NBA game, where he fits in spacing wise, all of that. But there's just like raw tools there and athleticism that you can't teach. It just pops off the screen. You couple that with the feel and the handle, the defensive stuff with him, man. Just a few sequences of wow. I want to quickly play a game here of what sound did you make? We played this on Friday with our pal S. We're going to do it again here. A Mogbo edition. This might be a thing we do a lot this year because that guy does some crazy things on the floor. I got two. What sound did you make? You can make these sounds in subsequent order for effect. Number one, what sound did you make when he blocked Tyrese Maxey on a pull-up three in that game against the Sixers on Friday? We don't got to worry about how the possession ended, where it kind of ended in a bucket for Andre Drummond on a busted play, but just the specific block. What sound did you make? And then what sound did you make against the Wolves when Mogbo like went toe-to-toe, kept his feet moving with Ant Edwards, forced him into a really ugly air ball mid-range pull-up? What sounds did you make in response to both of those defensive sequences by one Jonathan Mogbo?
So with Tyrese Maxey, it was more of a get that garbage out of here.
I think you owe Jack Armstrong money now, but that's okay.
Yeah, that was crazy. Super fun play. Anthony Edwards, it was almost like, it was more intense because you're like rooting for the kid, and it's like, all right, don't get embarrassed. And Anthony Edwards is crossing up, and then Mogbo was able to stick with him, forces the air ball, and it's just like, all right, good job, kid, you hung in there.
That's the sound you make.
That was
this bump, and you said, "Good job, kid, hung in there." This is not
it was like
we're looking
an intense.
for.
It wasn't. I don't know. That wasn't like a defensive highlight that gets you like going crazy. I guess. In terms of sounds, right? I was just like, okay, hang in there. All right, yes.
All right. I have better sounds. For Maxey, it was more like, Like kind of shocked you. It kind of came out of nowhere. And then for the stop on Edwards, there was a little bit more of a sort of reserved response to it, but it was like that's a thing that he can do.
Yeah,
Okay.
that wasn't a much better sound.
I mean, you didn't even make a sound, so by rule, it was better.
I
than
gave
your
an
sound.
honest reaction.
Yeah, you
I
did a fist
replayed.
bump in an audio medium. Great, good stuff, man. I think, and I want to get into this a little bit later on too when we get to the good, the bad, and the Big V. I think the arrival of these rookies, the sort of varying degrees of readiness that they seem to bring to the table. We didn't really talk about Jamison Battle off the top here, but obviously the shooting he brings is obvious, and he has been a really nice piece. And like the fit with Scotty Barnes has been very quick. We'll get into sort of what the rotation starts to look like once guys start to come back. Now that you couple maybe some lesser performances from veterans like Davion Mitchell, Chris Boucher, who haven't looked super good out of the gate, with the very good performances from rookies, the incoming guys, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel quickly on down the line. We'll get to that later on in the good, the bad, and the But first, we're going to get into your big takeaway from the weekend, which has to do with Gradey Dick, who looks pretty darn good. We'll get to that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And of course, it's not just the NFL. You've got all kinds of other sports on there. You can go and peruse. The World Series is going on. You got the NBA and NHL seasons kicking up and moving in full steam ahead mode as well. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Back at it here with Vivek Jacob from Raptors in 7 and Sportsnet. We're running through our biggest takeaways from a 1-1 weekend for your Toronto Raptors. They got the Denver Nuggets on tap tonight. That should be fun. Nuggets not looking so good. Maybe those young Raptors with new Jokic stopper Jonathan Mogbo can take them down. Let's get into your big takeaway from the weekend here, Big V. What you got? I have a hunch it's Gradey Dick related.
You are accurate. 100%
it's almost
accurate.
Like we talked before the show or something.
Looking much like Grady's above the break 3-point shooting. I think that is probably my biggest takeaway is, watching him coming into this season. We felt like there were strides. We got that glimpse in Summer League, and then we saw it in preseason. The way the offense is set up, like obviously Quickly is the best 3-point shooter on the team in terms of 3-point versatility and just the volume that he's going to get up. But then Gradey Dick is next right after that. And so I think the way the team is going to set up its offense, you want those two guys taking as many above the break threes as possible. When RJ is healthy, you probably want him taking as many corner threes as possible. And so it was about Gradey graduating from being a corner three specialist last year to being an above the break specialist this year. And so far, he has taken just one corner three. Yeah. And he's 7 for 17 on his above the break looks. That's just about 41%, if I'm not mistaken, and is looking really good. And I think, the way he's able to attack closeouts has been huge as well. The way he's attacking the basket in general. I mean, we saw that teardrop over Rudy Gobert was sweet. Yeah, now, that had some sounds, I'll tell you.
I think I just made the sound I let out when I saw it. Yeah, for sure.
So the teardrop that he had, the running banker, the sort of sideways fadeaway over Gobert, like seeing all of that stuff is incredible. He had the up and under in the first game in the home opener. Seeing that stuff is just as encouraging as seeing the above the break threes. He has made a leap.
At the risk of sounding crass, Dick's bag is enormous. He just has a whole lot of different finishes and ways to score. And I'm not going to say the line because, at this point it's canon. He's not just a shooter. We get it. We don't need to keep on hitting us over the head with that thing. It's declared. Gradey Dick does a lot of things to score. And I think it's only going to get.
His package has expanded?
I would say that's that's a pretty apt reading of it. Yes, Vivek, you're dead on. I think, he does a lot to just insert dynamism into this offense. It flows a lot smoother with him out there than every Milwaukee Bucks fan's least favorite player now, Gary Trent Jr. did. He just does a lot more to kind of be additive when he's out there. It's not just, okay, I'm going to drill these catch and shoot standstill threes. Like, he's making things happen. He's finding something from nothing. And in an offensive context, that's been really difficult, right? No Quickly, no Barrett. Like, it's just been a way more challenging set of guys he's been playing with than you'd think he would be playing with in a normal situation. At this point, he's got to start, like, once Barrett's back. I think it's pretty clear. As good as Ochai's been, which we'll get to, Gradey Dick just makes this offense hum a lot more than Ochai does or will if he's in there, despite all the good he's bringing. The three-point shooting is just so valuable. And to your point, the above the break stuff is super, super encouraging, right? Like, that is the most difficult shot to be good at in basketball. He was not very good at it last year. He's been excellent at it so far this year. And he's not this corner merchant where, corner threes are valuable, right? But if you can be someone who starts in the corner and then ends up somewhere else causing havoc, that is just something that's a really important layer to put into the Raptors offense. Gradey Dick does all of that. What have you made of his defense so far? Obviously that's going to be a big thing you keep an eye on throughout the season. There have been some flourishes of really good, some flourishes of not so good. How would you kind of grade Gradey Dick on the defensive end, compared to expectations? He's not an all NBA guy on defense. That's fine. But, compared to what you thought, how has he held up for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting too much progression in terms of like his one-on-one ability. I'm expecting more in terms of picking up the concepts and just understanding things from a team perspective and being in the right place. So I think from that standpoint, he's done okay. But I do think, he's probably well below where you would like him to be long-term as a prospect. So, I think with the injuries, he's actually had the advantage of playing with two good defenders, right? In the last couple of games, he's gone in with Davion Mitchell and Ochai Agbaji, who at least defensively you would probably take over, what Quickly brings to the table, what RJ brings to the table. And so he has had that advantage. At the start of the Wolves game, they tried to hide him on Mike Conley, and you had Ochai and Davion kind of sharing responsibilities against Anthony Edwards. So obviously the Wolves did a good job of, on occasion using Mike Conley as a screener and then getting Dick switched on to Ant. And outside of maybe one good stop that he got, Ant kind of had his way, but Ant kind of had his way for most of the night. So you can't complain too much about that. But yeah, I think Grady's got a ways to go defensively, especially one-on-one. But I do think he seems to be more in line in terms of where he should be positionally. I think last year, if you were to compare clips, you'd probably see him out of position and just looking pretty lost on that end.
Sure. Yeah, I'm with you. I think, it's probably been like a C+, B-, which you'll take. Like, it's perfectly passable for what he's being asked to do out there. There have been some moments where he's like defending with the chest and it's kind of looked pretty all right. We'll see when it's sort of more potent wings and stuff like that he's matched up with. It's not like the teams they've played have sported these sort. I mean, Edwards sort of, although he's more guard adjacent, I'd say, than wing at this point. But the teams they've played have not been super heavy on like big, nasty, creative wings that Dick might have to go and match up with at times. But, there have been lots of nice moments. And I think, he's talked about this too, talked about it in training camp a little bit, just sort of feeling the energy of being more sort of, eager going for deflections and steals and stuff like that. And how that's kind of infusing into his defensive sort of energy and all of that. So that's great. I think, Gradey Dick, the offense he's bringing to the table makes him eminently playable. If there's even sort of passable defense there, you're looking at a really damn good player. And I think it's all right to feel very optimistic about what Gradey Dick's ceiling within this team can be. Again, I think shooting plus Scotty Barnes, always a damn good combo. And I'm excited to see that combination sort of nurtured further this season. And once they get their, big horses back and Quickly and Barrett, continue to think this starting lineup is going to absolutely whip if Gradey Dick is a part of it, which, again, I think it's pretty academic at this point that he should be. We'll come back on the other side, get into the good, the bad, and the We're going to talk about rotation stuff. We'll talk about Ochai Agbaji and much more coming up to close out the show. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time, the single best place to buy tickets for the sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, theater events that you want to go to. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to go and waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I use Game Time Picks on Friday night because the winner of last year's Locked On Raptors Over-Unders contest is going to the game on Monday due to Game Time. I went and bought the tickets, transferred them over, and that is going to be, in use on Monday night. The winner of the Locked On Raptors Over-Unders Game Time is a little great bit of synergy we got here on the podcast. It's an awesome thing. You get all-in pricing when you toggle that feature on. Super helpful, so you don't get those last-minute fees at checkout that surprise you. I always have it toggled on, and I'm always knowing exactly what I'm about to go and pay. You get the panoramic view from your seats. Maybe you've never been to the venue before, not sat in a section. You want to see what you're going to see. You can do that to make sure you're not going to have any obstructions or anything like that. And, of course, they have the lowest price guarantee. They'll credit you 110% of the difference if you find the same row and section of seats for less somewhere else. Go check them out. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Well, it's game time, of course. Wrapping it up here, Big V, Vivek Jacob is here as we pick apart the Toronto Raptors 1-1 weekend against the Sixers and the Wolves ahead of a busy week for them. They got 4 games on tap tonight against the Nuggets. They play, I believe, the Hornets on Wednesday, and then they've got the Lakers and Kings back-to-back Friday, Saturday, with Saturday being the Vince Carter appreciation night, jersey retirement night. It's going to be very cool. Looking forward to being at that one for sure. All right, let's get to the good, the bad, and the We have the same good, and because it is your birthday and because this is your guy, I will give you the floor to tee up the good, which we are sharing today. What you got here, Big V?
Ochai Agbaji.
Hell yeah.
I think the way he's stepped into the starting role has been excellent. I think the way that he has simplified his offensive game. He knows he's a good cutter. He knows, Darko came into this season really talking up his athleticism and sort of encouraging to be like, hey, like, you're a really good athlete. Like, if you see an open lane, take it. And I think we've seen a lot more of that. And the fact that he is currently 11 for 16 on twos, that's pretty much what you want from a guy who is struggling to shoot the three coming into this season. He's made 3 of his 6 threes. We'll obviously have to see how that plays out. But if you're being that efficient from 2, it helps a lot. And I think defensively, I'd still say he's been okay. I don't think he's been great. I don't think anyone's been great when you've given up the points that the Raptors have. But I do think that in terms of what he needs to be at the NBA level, what he needs to be for this Raptors team, he's probably been okay to solid defensively. But the offense has been, I would say, a notable improvement from what we saw last season.
Remind you of anything we've seen with a certain player development arc for a guy the Raptors acquired from another team who struggled and then completely remade the shot chart of? Yeah, it's RJ Barrett 2.0, man. It's kind of awesome that this sort of Darko Rajakovic magical development pixie dust has been sprinkled once again, and it seems like it's working in Ochai's favor quite a bit. More than 50% of his looks in Utah came from three-point range. He was so three-point dependent. As a rookie, it was 59% of his looks. He's taken 27% of his shots from 3 so far this season. He is a rim merchant. He's a transition merchant, and it has been awesome to see him sort of hone that finishing, where he really struggled last year finishing on the inside as well. He's been awesome finishing on the interior this season so far. I think 68%, 69% from inside 3 feet. He's been fantastic getting to the rim, finishing there. It's just they have stopped asking him to do a thing he's not good at. He's not a good 3-point shooter, has not been a good 3-point shooter. He's been reserved to the corners where he's had some moderate success, but it hasn't been lasting. And there's only so much utility you have if you're a corner 3-point shooter who doesn't really, command the defense's attention when you're standing in that corner. In fact, if you're a bad shooter in the corner, guess what? Guys are going to help off you super liberally and make it that much more difficult for the guys trying to make stuff happen in the middle of the floor. So it can actually be damaging if you're just a corner shooter who defenses don't care about, who knocks him down at sort of a cursory rate. Weaponizing him as a driver, as a cutter, as a transition finisher has been a great call, I think, by the Raptors front office. And there was a possession in that game against the Wolves where Jakob Poeltl has it up high, quick little pitch pass to Ochai right into a pick and roll where Ochai screams around, hurdles towards the rim with the left, and it could have just been plucked out of RJ Barrett's tape from the last 10 months very easily. Really impressive stuff. And, again, the Raptors front office seems pretty good at, there's nothing, the front office, the coaching staff seems pretty good at identifying where a guy is good, where a guy struggles, and kind of trimming the fat and getting rid of the stuff guys aren't good at and not making it huge, sort of gigantic cruxes of their games. Been awesome to see for Ochai. And he's a rotation player if he's playing like this, man. I don't think he should start. I think Gradey should when they're at full health, but I do think there's a clear 8th or 9th man here at the very least with what Ochai's been doing. Really happy for him. Seems like an awesome dude. Certainly rooting for him, though I was skeptical that there was a better player sort of to be found here. But the Raptors coaching staff, they seem to have a handle on how to get the most out of these guys, which is very, very exciting indeed. Let's go to the bad. My bad, Big V, just turnovers and general franticness. I love the energy and exuberance of the youths, but I haven't loved how little control they seem to have over what's happening on the floor at times. Very scattershot at times, turnovers all over the place. Jamal Shead, I think, had 7 turnovers against the Wolves, 5 against the Sixers. Again, rookie point guard stuff that's going to happen. That'll get honed in. But yeah, it's been interesting because there is a world in which they can be an absolute possession battle monster once again, a la the Nick Nurse teams, if they just hone the turnovers in a little bit. Right now, they are number 1 in the league, or number 30, I guess, at a 21.7% turnover rate. That's a whole lot. 1 out of every 5 possessions is a turnover. That's not great. And it's 3 possession points higher than the next bad team at turnovers. They are also, Big V, number 1 in rebounding as a whole. They're gathering 56.9% of available rebounds right now. Number 1 in the NBA by 2.5 percentage points. They are number 2 in offensive rebounding percentage at 40.1%. That's ridiculous. And they are number 6 in defensive rebounding, which is a huge step up from last year. If they're actually a good rebounding team and can kind of hone in the turnovers just a little bit, that's going to be a huge edge for them to go and try to win some of these games on account of the possession battle that they seem to be able to kind of tilt in their favor. So really encouraging stuff there. And I do think the arrival of Emmanuel quickly will really help with the turnover stuff. He's a sure hand. He's got Jose Calderon level assist or turnover ratios. RJ Barrett's a sure hand too. I think once you get some of the more vet guys back in the lineup, it'll get cooled and chilled down a little bit. But for now, yeah, they are a frantic mess of a team, and I kind of love it. It's awesome. It's chaos. But yeah, they need some adults to kind of handle the ball a little bit more effectively, I think, if they want to really make this sustainable. What you got for your bad?
I think for the bad, it might sound a little harsh, but I have been kind of discouraged by Jakob Poeltl's start to the season.
Sure.
Definitely expecting more. I'm not going to get overly excited about him getting the better of the matchup against Andre Drummond. But you look at those 2 matchup against Cleveland, against Minnesota, and you're saying, okay, yeah, we're really going to need you against the big boys of Cleveland and against Rudy Gobert. And I don't think he's been quite at it when you look at the what's maybe been anticipated from a playmaking standpoint. He's had 8 assists to 9 turnovers, which is not something you want out of your big. So that hasn't been great. Obviously, he'll be better once RJ and Quickly are back. That's going to be an important part of him being effective. But I do think overall, especially with how good he looked in the preseason, I do think it's been a pretty disappointing start for Jakob.
Yeah, for
And
sure. I mean,
lastly, I'll just
yeah,
quickly add, I
yeah.
don't think it's very encouraging, especially from a minutes perspective, while Kelly's out, that he still can't, seem to find a way to play 30 minutes.
He played 30 against the Wolves, baby. It's happening. Over on that pick from last week. It's happening. But yeah, totally fair. I think, I wonder how differently we feel if the floater touch is just like a little bit better. It
Yeah.
feels like there's been a lot of those sort of pick and roll floaters that have just kind of been short and not fallen that were falling in the preseason. You figure that'll come back around. And I do think the arrival of Quickly having like an actually dynamic pick and roll partner to work with will be very helpful there too. But yeah, I think it's been, scattered at best for Jakob Poeltl so far. The playmaking probably gets easier when the offense is not the mess it's been as well, and the sort of chaos agents aren't flying around and messing stuff up. But a totally fair point. Not been the most banner of starts for Jakob Poeltl against, admittedly, some tough matchups in the Cavs front court and the Wolves front court, two of the bigger, beefier ones you're going to come across. But yeah. Let's get to the shall we? Thing that has us intrigued from the weekend that was. I'll go first. Just curious as to like what the rotation is going to look like once you start to get guys back. I think like I mentioned earlier, the play of the young guys mixed with the sort of less enthusiastic play from sort of the more vet guys, Davion Mitchell, Chris Boucher in particular. I do wonder if there is just like a, screw it, let's just play the young guys type of mentality here. I kind of want it. I know some of these guys are going to get 905 time probably. Mogbo feels like some 905 seasoning would do him well as he adjusts to the speed of the pro game. But at the same time, like he's already one of the 3 or 4 best defenders on the team, maybe. Just like through sheer force of being enormous and having really great shot contests and all that stuff, the shot blocking, the event creation, it's there. I wonder if maybe we start to see an early sort of transitioning away from the more veteran guys who don't necessarily have long-term places within this team, and they just kind of let the rookies run. Like Jamison Battle's shooting is so valuable. Just having him on the floor makes a lot of sense. He's 23. He's a little more advanced and sort of further along the curve. He was a 5-year college guy, and he bombs the hell out of the ball. Maybe he just plays all season long in the rotation and gives Scotty Barnes some space and breath and all of that. I think Shead should just be the backup point guard at this point. Fascinated to see how they handle it. Will they slow play it with the rookies? Will they just throw them all they can handle? I'm kind of hoping for the latter, expecting the former, but we'll see. What you got for your
My is Jamison Battle. I think
Yeah.
when you come in with his situation, you're just trying to make an impression. You're trying to get people to say, I'm intrigued. And I think through a week, I am intrigued. I think the shooting that he's brought has been super valuable. When you look at the lack of shooting on this team, you can definitely see the case to say, hey, there might be more opportunity here. There might be value in keeping him around. And obviously, there's a huge positional battle. There are so many guys at this spot. And you look at Jakob Poeltl, seemingly looking like he's going to be ramping things up with a 905. It's going to be tough sledding for anyone in those slots who are trying to crack into the rotation. But I do think he has done enough at this point. Just a great shooting touch to warrant, people looking at him and saying, okay, how much value can you really bring?
Mm-hmm. Shooting gets you on the floor, man. And shooting is always something that works with the best player on this team. And we saw the connection between them a couple times, right? Like Scotty with little high-low feeds to Battle. I think he's a smart cutter too. He's not just someone who's standing and doing nothing while waiting for the ball to come to him above the arc. Like he's doing stuff out there. He's moving around defensively. We'll see how it holds up. I think against second units, it can probably hang just fine. But he hasn't really been tested, I would say, as like a wing defender just yet. That is the spot he's going to have to defend. But he's chipped in some nice rebounding numbers. Like he does more than just bomb threes. And so I'm pretty big on the Jamison Battle experience so far. That stroke is just so bloody pretty to watch. I like watching it every time he puts it up. And I think that's a very good to close things out with here, Big V. As we do wrap here, do you have anything you want to promote for the good people out there?
Usual stuff, Raptors in 7. Please go ahead and check it out. I've got all the takeaways from each of the games so far. I'll be doing bigger stuff coming soon. So make sure you hit that subscribe button over on Substack. And besides that, the usual stuff at Sportsnet. And you can follow me on Twitter at Vivek Jacob.
We're just a couple of newsletter pitchers over here. Subscribe to my newsletter too. Locked On Raptors daily, free in your inbox. It's great. You get the two corners of the Raptors newsletter game covered off here with the two of us. So please go and support both. It's so much appreciated when you do. You can also join the Discord, link in the description of the podcast. Come hang out. We love to see you in there. It's a great place to come talk during games and whatnot. It's a lovely thing. So thanks in advance for supporting the show. However it is you choose to do so, subscribe to the YouTube channel, find us on the apps, etc., etc., etc. And we'll talk to you again on Tuesday as we talk about Raptors Nuggets. Should be a fun one. And, it's always fun when the Nuggets are in town. The Raptors tend to play up to them quite well most of the time. So we'll see. And again, Jonathan Mogbo, the new Jokic stopper. It's happening, baby. We'll talk to you again on Tuesday. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye. Damn it. I'm on a cold streak, man.